This is the Poco F6 and I've been using it for the last 40 days. So, how is Poco's most expensive phone of 2024? Also, is it better than the Nord 4?
Well, stick around to find out. And if you end up liking this video, do not forget to hit that subscribe button. The F6 scored an impressive GPU stability score on 3D Mark's Wildlife Extreme stress test. Its CPU stability score of 80% was pretty decent as well. Benchmarks aside, in the real world, the F6 still impresses with its gaming capabilities. Call of Duty, for instance, runs at a smooth 120 FPS without a hitch. Graphically demanding titles like Genshin Impact hold their own with minimal frame drops even during extended gaming sessions. However, while gameplay itself was not an issue on the Poco F6, its thermal management could have been better. While Poco has put a decently sized 4800mm square vapor chamber on this phone, it still tends to run hot. I performed all the gaming and benchmark tests in air-conditioned rooms, and this smartphone was far from being cool. In fact, in 3D Mark, it peaked at 49 degrees. Now sure, the phone did not have any temperature-induced performance throttling. Still, heat management is not this phone's strong point. On the software front, the F6 is powered by HyperOS built on top of Android 14. Poco is promising 3 major Android updates and 4 years of security updates on this smartphone, which is quite good for this segment. I just hope Poco delivers these updates on time. Anyway, anyone who has used MIUI should feel right at home with HyperOS. However, there will be a learning curve for those used to other Android skins, as HyperOS does a lot of things differently. For example, the split notification and quick toggle docks is a design choice I am not really fond of. And the lack of labels on quick toggles is just very confusing. Other than that, I would have appreciated it if Poco held back on bloatware a bit on its flagship F6 because frankly, there is a lot of it here. That being said, I had no issues with the fluidity of the software during my day-to-day use. The Poco F6 takes a minimalist approach to design. It resembles the F5 but opts for a more subdued aesthetic. This design language is definitely inoffensive and made to appeal to a wider audience. Notably absent on this phone is the signature Poco camera window, an element that injects some personality into the brand's other phones. This omission gives the F6 a cleaner look, but at the same time it also feels a bit generic. Given its focus on price to performance, the Poco F6 opts for a full plastic construction. While it does not have the premium in-hand feel of glass or vegan leather phones, the build quality remains quite decent. A significant advantage of the plastic build is that the Poco F6 feels quite lightweight, which is a welcome benefit during extended gaming sessions to avoid fatigue. The design itself blends a flat frame with a subtly curved back panel that enhances grip. Our review unit has a matte black finish with subtle shimmery texture. The phone is also quite slippery, so Poco does include a silicone case in the box to address this issue. The rear of the phone is dominated by two large camera lenses, flanked by a big flash ring that bears a resemblance to Vivo's Aura Lite. The front of the Poco X6 is visually quite appealing because of its slim bezels. The Poco F6 rocks a 6.67-inch AMOLED display and it is a high-quality panel. It has a 120Hz refresh rate, 1.5K resolution and is HDR and Dolby Vision certified. Its peak brightness is 2400 nits, while the local high brightness is somewhere around 1200 nits, which makes it quite usable in direct sunlight as well. Out of the box, the display is set to a natural color profile, which is great for everyday use. But if you prefer colors that pop a bit more, you can adjust the settings to your liking. Deep blacks and great viewing angles complete the immersive display package, making the F6 a joy to use for streaming movies or battling enemies in games. The multimedia experience gets an extra bump thanks to the phone's loud stereo speakers. However, music lovers might find themselves wanting a bit more depth in the bass department. Anyway, beneath the display is an optical fingerprint reader which worked quite well in my experience. You also get an IP64 rating on the F6 for added durability. Poco has also included an IR blaster on this smartphone, which can be quite helpful if the remote of your TV or AC is out of sight. The Poco F6 has a dual rear camera setup consisting of a 50-megapixel main sensor and an 8-megapixel ultra-wide sensor. The main sensor is the Sony IMX882, which has become quite common in mid-range smartphones this year. The good news is that this is the best performing camera yet on a Poco smartphone. Given enough light, the images have a decent amount of detail, the dynamic range is good, and the colors are quite close to natural. Portrait mode delivers acceptable results, but the lack of a 2x zoom option and some iffy edge detection hold it back. Night mode photos are devoid of noise, but the phone does not brighten up the photos and tries to maintain the natural look of the scene. Moving on, videos from the main sensor, however, are prone to exposure jumps, even though they have a decent amount of detail. Coming to the ultra-wide camera, it is a decent performer for the price, but I'd recommend using it in natural light for best results. The selfie camera, however, has the tendency to brighten up your skin even with all enhancements off. The 5000 mAh battery on the Poco F6 provides good endurance. I managed to extract around 8.5 hours of screen time with mixed use. But since most people will buy this smartphone primarily for gaming, your battery performance will vary. Still, this is a smartphone that will not die on you quickly. Also, just like the flagship Xiaomi 14, the Poco F6 supports 90 watt fast charging, but comes bundled with a 120 watt fast charger. You can fully charge its battery from 0 to 100% in approximately 40 minutes.
The Poco F6 packs a serious punch. It also nails the essentials: a good camera, a smooth display, and a dependable battery life. Sure, the Nord 4 comes with a funkier design and cleaner software with more updates. Still, if gaming is paramount, you should give the Poco F6 a serious look.